Sound Yeah,
Good afternoon, everyone. Participants, kindly mute your audio. Good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible?
Good afternoon, madam.
Good afternoon, sir. On behalf of the management, director, principal, and faculty members of Dhaanish Ahmed College of Engineering, myself, Dr. Rahila, Professor, Department of Electrical and Electronics Engineering, and Head of Internal Quality Assurance Cell of DAYS, heartily welcome the resource person, Ms. Anuradha, and participants from various colleges and universities to this virtual faculty development program on effective pedagogies in teaching and learning. I invite her principal, Dr. Uma Gaurima of Danish Ahmed College of Engineering to deliver the welcome address.
Good afternoon, one and all present here. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. So good afternoon once again. The distinguished resource person for today's program, Professor K. Anuratha, Department of IT, Sri Shairam Institute of Technology, faculty members of a college and other faculty members from various other colleges, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great privilege to welcome you all for this wonderful program conducted by our institute on teaching pedagogy, that is effective pedagogies in teaching and learning. So this is going to be definitely a very fruitful session for everybody because an engineering college teachers, whether we are teaching UG or PG level, we need to have a necessary pedagogic procedures to be known before teaching the students. Okay, and only if we have such skills, as per the NASCAM report, right now, only 20% of engineering employees, engineering students are employable. So that is because we don't follow sufficient pedagogies as the other teachers are following in school level, the lower level or higher secondary level. So definitely any engineering teaching faculty should have attended a must course on teaching pedagogy so that teaching will be very efficient and so that we can make effective engineers as expected by the industries. Okay, and our education system totally lacks in 4 aspects. One is pedagogy, second the quality, third professionalism, and educational leadership. In all these 4 areas, there are a lot of lagging, and all these areas to be improvised by conducting some programs. It may be a webinar or it can be a small seminars or any other initiative so that our teaching faculty knows few things about it and they can deliver effectively the content to the students. So as a small initiative, the Dhaanish Ahmed Engineering College has arranged for a program like this and series of programs for all these 4 days for 1 hour. This small initiative will definitely help the faculty to understand what are all the pedagogies, what are all the professionals needed, what are all the quality assurance we need to make when we teach something to the students, and what kind of leadership we can take up and all other things. So with that, I would like to appreciate all the faculty members of our college who have taken so much initiative to conduct series of programs in this week, and appreciate and also thanks goes to them, and hope the series of programs will definitely initiate some kind of knowledge, and also that will lead to some improvement as expected by the AICT or UGC. So with that, I wish all the participants of this program to have a wonderful session ahead on all these 4 days. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So this is an online faculty development program, which is going to be a 3-day series of virtual programs starting at 2:30 p.m. every day and will continue for an hour. This FDP focuses on the basic parameters of OBE like Bloom's taxonomy, innovative teaching techniques, and COPO mapping, which the beginners and new faculty members should be aware of. And I'm happy to see the participants from various colleges, universities across the state and also from other countries. We'll be very happy to learn from you as well. Your inputs will be much appreciated, as this, at the end of the day, this is a pure learning platform. Today's session is Bloom's Taxonomy in Teaching and Learning. It is a great honor for me to introduce and welcome the chief guest, Ms.Anuratha, Assistant Professor, Sri Sairam Institute of Technology, Chennai. She has over 18 years of academic experience and has actively involved herself in various accreditation activities like NBA, NAC, both at the institute and the department level. She has attended and organized several training programs on outcome-based education and teaching pedagogies, which is one of the major focus these days in all higher education institutes. With that being said, I now hand over the session to Ms. Anuradha. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. Okay, thanks a lot for the introduction. So, good afternoon, one and all present here for the FDP on teaching pedagogies. First of all, I would like to convey my thanks to Dhaanish College of Engineering, the principal and Professor Dr. Ragila for giving me an opportunity to handle a session in the workshop on effective pedagogies in teaching and learning. As well, I thank my management principal for their constant encouragement and support to involve in such kind of activities in spite of our academic schedule. Hope the session will be somehow bring some insights on Bloom's taxonomy and how it will be useful in teaching and learning. So let's get into the session. Hope my screen is visible.
Yes, madam. Yes.
Okay. So today's session will be on Bloom's taxonomy in teaching and learning. And the outcomes of the workshop could be on completion of the workshop, the participants will be able to understand slightly on the significance of outcome-based education and what could be the steps in writing learning outcomes and how to articulate the objectives, outcomes and assessment techniques and how can we assess the students based on the appropriate action verbs described in the Bloom's taxonomy. So these will be the basic outcomes of this workshop. And first of all, before going into Bloom's taxonomy, we have to know about something about outcome-based education. So as teachers, we used to always concentrate on the syllabus. We'll be rushing to complete the syllabus. So what and all there in those 5 units, we'll be interested in completing those 5 units. Though there are some students without even understanding basic concepts of that particular subject. So that's what this outcome-based education focuses much on what we teach the students. It's what the students learn. So it says that it's a student-centered approach to education and focuses more on the intended learning outcomes than that of a completion of the syllabus. So usually in the conventional traditional education, we will be like teaching the syllabus and we are expecting the students to write some tests or exams on the stipulated syllabus and the students will be writing the test on the same and based on the grades and the marks they have got will be just evaluating the students, but the basic skill set of the students are never ever we have evaluated, which is actually the need of the country these days, right? So whenever we expect the students to be placed, the first question the employer will be asking is what knowledge, what skill set you have possessed extra from your regular academics. So, but we lag in it. That's what the main focus of this outcome-based education, which is actually considered as a deficiency in the traditional education. So, what this OBE focus is that, so we just have a curriculum which is being prescribed either by the university we are affiliated with or as autonomous institutions we can have our own curriculum without even considering what is actually needed from the external employer point of view. That's why we say them as a stakeholder as well. Though we are educational institutions, we must consider the employers as well as the stakeholders. So we have to better understand the needs of the company, needs of the industry, so that we can make our students industry ready. So we have to involve them as well in the curriculum design, and we have to focus much on the student skill set than that of preparing them for getting better grade points or marks. and it has to bridge the gap between the formal education and career-oriented skill set, and we have to emphasize more on the learning attributes than that of exam-based education system, and the objectives, activities, and the assessment are to be properly aligned, which is not there with the conventional traditional education system. And as well, the conventional educational system is lagging in assessment of competencies which is needed for the company. So that is also to be considered as a major focus of this outcome-based education. So the main focus is that we have to consider only the skill set of the students, and exam result is not the most important consideration by the employer. So what is actually OBE? So as we told, OBE, it is an educational method that focuses on what the students can actually do after they are taught. So we just teach the students the syllabus, and they are completing a semester, and semester by semester they are pursuing their own courses, and after the completion of their degree, either it could be arts and science degree or it could be whatever, even at the school students level, they are just completing the syllabus, and based on what they have studied in that particular period of 3 years or 4 years or whatever it is. So we are supposed to conduct an examination, we are supposed to conduct an assessment. So the students are expected to write what they have been taught in the duration, and they will be just producing what they have studied. So based on which only we are just evaluating the students which actually not needed for this outcome-based education these years. So it is an educational method that has more focus on what the students have to possess after they are taught. So it's mainly concentrating on the skill set a student has to possess on completion of any course. So the education system must be based on outcomes, and it focuses mainly on the skill set the students must acquire on completion of a session or course. So it could be a kind of even a 1 hour session if we conduct for the students, and it is possible for us to assess the students' understanding level. That's what is needed than that of having that 1 hour session occupied with something. So the activities inside and outside classrooms are designed in a manner that that will better help the students and to better understand the skill set of the students to achieve those outcomes, and credits will be assigned based on the achievement of the outcomes by the respective students. And this is the major difference between the outcome-based education and the traditional education system. And both the systems follow 3 processes. So we need to have the curriculum planning and design, and then we need to have the teaching process, and we'll be evaluating the students through a final outcome assessment. So we'll be following conventional traditional syllabus from generation to generation. So the same curriculum will be passed from the previous generation to the next generation, and as teachers will be focusing on completing the syllabus by the end of the duration of that particular course, and the students are expected to appear for their examinations, and they are assessed based on the grades they have obtained in the examination. Whereas here in outcome-based education, we just have the same 3 processes but in a different perspective. So we are planning the curriculum and we are designing the curriculum by understanding the needs of the students as well. That's why we say we have students as stakeholder as well the company industry as stakeholder. So we have to better understand the company's needs as well. We have to understand the potential of each and every student of the class, and then we have to design the curriculum. Whatever it may be, it could be an engineering course, it could be arts and science course. So what we are expected to provide as teachers, as educational institution, what we are expected to provide to the students, based on which we have to design the curriculum considering the needs of the employers. And the teachers will be focusing on developing the new skills of the students, then that of completing the syllabus. And we have to assess the knowledge of the students instead of assessing how much grade or how much marks the students have obtained. So we are better helping the students to promote their skill set, and this is what OBE philosophy says. So we have to say what you do. That's what we say. We just decide what learning objective we should have for a course, for a degree, whatever it is. Then we have to do what we have said as objective, and we have to prove it. Then we have to improve it. So this is a continual process. So we will be having a course, or we will be having a program. So for that program or course, we may have certain learning objectives, at the end of that particular duration of that course, we are expected our students to possess some skill set, and to achieve that skill set, we have to follow some teaching pedagogies. That's what it means. It is do what you say, and we have to prove it. So we have to prove it through some learning assessments, and that learning assessment will in turn say the students are possessing the skills and capabilities rather than they have just obtained the grades on the syllabus we have taught. And we have to again improve it, because day by day the industry needs are getting changed. So according to the needs of the industry, according to sell our students to the market, we have to keep on changing our syllabus in such a way that it meets out the requirements of the day-to-day industry. So simply speaking, the OBE addresses the following questions. So these are the four contexts or four factors we need to consider when we talk about outcome-based education: the curriculum, pedagogy, assessment, and the continuous quality improvement. So we may follow any kind of a curriculum, and that curriculum have to answer the question, what do we want the students to have or be able to do. So what skill set the student should possess on completion of the course. Based on that, we have to follow that. We have to design the curriculum. Then we have formulated a curriculum, and then we have to help the student to fulfill or to pursue that curriculum in a better way. That's what we mean it as pedagogy. So how can we best help the students to achieve the completion of that curriculum? Then we have to understand whether the students have achieved it. So we have designed the curriculum, and we have helped the students to complete that curriculum within a stipulated period, and we have to understand whether the students have possessed or whether the students have achieved the required skill set. So through assessment, we'll be doing it, and then we have to keep on improving ourselves to make our students industry ready. So for that, we need to have the continuous quality improvement. So this outcome-based approach is much on the process of learning, and the final outcome as on the knowledge, skill, and attitude. So here we are not just rating the students based on marks. We are just making the students, we are helping the students to promote or to develop their knowledge, skill, and attitude. So these are the three important components to consider as most important when the students are there within our education institution. That is the content, pedagogy, and assessment. Just like that, we cannot frame our syllabus. Just like that, we cannot frame our curriculum. So we have to better understand the need, and we have to frame it. Though we have a excellent curriculum, if it's not delivered in a proper way, if we haven't follow a better pedagogy, then it's not possible for us to deliver the expected spectacular curriculum to the students. So both the things complement each other. The curriculum, the way in which we deliver the curriculum to the students, both the things complement each other. And once after completion of that teaching, we have to, so that's what we say it as teaching and learning process. So it's not only with teaching, there is something to do with learning as well. So we have formulated the curriculum, we have followed all the possible pedagogies to deliver the curriculum to the students. And finally, as teachers, we need to better understand whether the students have achieved what they are expected to achieve. So based on assessment, we can do that. And once after having it, there could be some flaws. So obviously, there is always room for improvement. Then we have to better understand what are all the flaws in the pedagogy or curriculum, whatever it is, and then we'll be keep on improving it. That's what we mean it as continuous quality improvement. And now we come to the Bloom's taxonomy. Now the Bloom's taxonomy comes into picture. That's what the first thing we say it is, what do you want the students to have or able to do? So as whatever it is, as I told, it could be any degree. It could be a arts and science degree or engineering degree, or even a school student for a particular subject. We may have the learning outcomes, learning objectives, whatever it is. So what we actually do when we talk about the outcome-based education for a particular course or for a particular session. So here we are intended to assess the cognitive skills, psychomotor skills, and affective social skills of a learner. That's what a Bloom's taxonomy talk about. So we expect the students to possess something. So when I say this particular person is a doctor, this particular person is a lawyer. So as a lawyer, they are expected to possess some quality. As teachers, we are expected to possess some quality. So what are the criteria to describe a person as a lawyer? What are the skills that a person should possess to qualify them as a professional? So each and every professional has its own requirements. So on completion of those requirements, on possessing those skill set only, we can say that particular person has accomplished the requirements of that profession. So through these three levels of skills, we can say a particular person has possessed those requirements. So what we teach, what we need to teach, what is actually expected, based on which we have to understand what do you want the students to have or able to do. So though we say engineering, again within engineering we have several streams. So as ECE student skill set will be totally different, and as mechanical students skill set will be totally different. So what they are expected to possess after the completion of 4 years as mechanical engineers, mechanical graduates, what a ECE graduate is expected to possess after the completion of 4 years. So based on which only we have to prepare the syllabus. That's what we term it as what do you want the students to have or able to do. So whether they want to become entrepreneurs, whether they want to become corporate employee, so whatever they want to become, so there could be a heterogeneous kind of students. So we have to understand the capabilities of all the students and what we are intended for as an educational institution. So we have to understand it, and whatever may be the field of study they are in. So these are all the three skills we have to focus with: the cognitive skills, psychomotor skills, and active social skills. So combinedly, these three skills are termed as Bloom's taxonomy. So next comes the pedagogy. So we have to help the students to achieve what they are expected to possess at the end of the course. So we may follow any kind of pedagogy like lectures, demonstration, projects, and we may ask them to write assignments, speak assignments, so whatever it is. So there are n number of pedagogies we may follow to help the students to achieve the intended outcomes. And next thing we have to do is we have to understand whether they have possessed it or not, right? So for that we'll be doing some kind of assessment. So that could be direct or indirect assessment. So we may have a formative exam, and through that we may assess whether students have achieved the skill set. Not all the skill set could be assessed only through formative assessments. So there are a number of direct and indirect assessment tools. Through that we can able to understand whether the students have possess the intended learning outcomes. And then we have to close the loop. As we told, teaching and learning is a continual process. So once after having the assessment plan, and we will understand who are doing what and when, and we'll be involving the stakeholders' participation, whether we need to continue the same process again, is there anything to be added, is there anything to be removed based on the stakeholder requirement, and we'll be doing the continual improvement. So these are all the 4 processes we'll be keep on doing as educational institution or as academicians to help the students to become industry ready. So this is the OBE philosophy. So we just frame the learning outcomes. So we understand what the students are expected to possess after 4 years, 3 years, whatever it is. And what do you want the students to learn? What do you want the students to become? So based on which you will frame the learning outcomes, and you have to help the students, you have to motivate the students saying why they should learn it. So obviously, end of the day, they have to be sellable, right? So that's why they are in education, and they have to promote themselves, and they have to be employed. So for that only we make them to possess all those specified skill sets. So we have to say them why they should learn it, and we should keep on motivating it so that there won't be any gap between the learning outcome and the skills they possess. And through teaching pedagogies, we'll be helping them, and finally we'll come to know whether they have learned it through series of assessments. And this is the major difference between a formal traditional view of education and OBE view of education. So in formal traditional view, we'll just instruct what is there in the syllabus, and we'll try to complete the syllabus. That will be the main focus. Here in OBE point of view, learning will be the main focus. Whether it could be teacher or student, learning will be the main focus, and it should be mainly on student-centered approach. So as engineering student, within engineering, as CSE student, as mechanical engineering student, what they actually need to possess at the end of their graduation. So it's mainly focusing on the learning, and then here we'll be following inputs and resources to instruct. Here we'll be concentrating on the learning outcomes, and the knowledge will be transferred by the teacher in the traditional view, whereas in OBE it says that knowledge already exists in the mind of the learners, and as teachers we have to help them in instill their skills to become industry ready. And here the teacher dispenses knowledge, and here the teacher just considered as designers of methods. So already the students possess some skills, and they have to exhibit those skills, and to explore those skills the teachers are just helping them as designers of various pedagogical methods. And here the teachers and students are considered to be independent elements, whereas here teachers and students work in terms to achieve the learning outcomes. So these are considered as outcomes in OBE. So actually before going to this, why we need this Bloom's taxonomy, why we should know that, what is the actual use of that Bloom's taxonomy. We have to know that. Just like that we cannot go with Bloom's taxonomy. That's why I just wanted to give some brief on outcome-based education. And these are all some of the terms we used to have, some of the outcomes in outcome-based education. So as we told, whatever may be the institution kind, whatever education the institution provides, each and every institution has its own vision and mission, right? So, and though that vision and mission is better inculcated to their stakeholders as well. Stakeholders, when we say, we have students, teachers, parents, employees, alumni, all those people are considered as the stakeholders of the institution. So the vision and mission of the institution, it has to be better understood by the stakeholders of the institution, and based on the vision and mission of the institution. So when we say vision and mission, it's common for the institution, right? Then comes the program education objectives. So when we say program, it's more on the discipline, it's more on the specialization, it's more on the department in which the students are learning, right? So program educational objectives. So here each and every course is considered as a program, and each and every course is expected to have a program educational objective. And just like that, we cannot have the program educational objective. So this program educational objective should be in line with the vision and mission of the institution, right? So as institute, I have a mission and I have a vision. So there are some 4 departments in this institution. Then all those 4 departments may have their own programs, and all those programs may have their own objectives. Collectively, these objectives should meet the vision of the institution. So as computer science and engineering department, how can I better help the institute to achieve its mission through my program educational objective? So I may run a UG program, I may run PG program. So each and every program should have its own program educational objective, because so under computer science and engineering, I may run a UG program, BE computer science and engineering and ME computer science and engineering. Say for example, we may have another program like artificial intelligence and data science. So we cannot say though they're learning under graduation, the skill set of both the 2 different courses will be same. So though they come under the broader category of computer science and engineering, they are expected to possess different skill sets, specific skill sets specific to their program. That's why we have this program educational objective. So this program educational objective, so it is measurable after their completion of, after 4 to 5 years completion of their UG degree or PG degree, whatever it is. Then we have program outcomes. So program outcomes will be assessing this program outcomes at the end of their graduation itself. Say for example, the stipulated period is 4 years, then we'll be expecting the graduates to possess the program outcome at the end of their graduation. Then comes learning outcomes. So this is expected to possess by the students at the end of each course. So we start with course outcomes. Say for example, in first semester we have 8 courses, means each and every course will have its own course outcome. So each course outcome should be in aligned with the program outcome, and the program outcome in aligned with the program educational objective, and program educational objective in aligned with the vision and mission of the institution. Just like that, I can have one vision and without having any association with the vision and mission of the institute, I cannot write my program educational objective. So in aligned with the vision and mission, I should have PEO, and then PO. In turn, we will have learning outcomes. So each and every course is expected to have objective and then learning outcomes. So objective, before starting a course, we have some learning objective, and we'll be framing delivery of the syllabus based on that objective, and at the end of the syllabus completion, we'll expect a student to possess what is there as learning outcomes associated with that course. So that's why we say program educational objectives and vision and mission of the institution as long-term outcomes, and program outcomes and learning outcomes of subjects are considered as short-term outcomes. So these are all interrelated and complement each other. We cannot have them separately. So we'll start with vision and mission, macro level, then comes PEO, then comes PO, then we have the learning outcomes of subjects. And this slide gives the interrelationship between the various elements we have seen now. So based on the stakeholders' input, we have the vision and mission, and in turn we'll be writing the program objectives for each and every program of different departments of the institute, considering the stakeholder institute's mission and vision. Then we'll be formulating the program outcomes, which is expected by the students to possess at the end of their graduation. Then we have learning outcomes, and we can have assessments for each and every component at various intervals, and we can analyze it, and each and every component is said to have the continual improvement. And these are all the benefits of OBE. So it improves the learning process, and it improves the institutional effectiveness, and it has impact in the continual quality improvement. And as we get the inputs from the industry people, and the curriculum will be of more relevance, and the graduates will be more relevant to industry and other stakeholders. Now comes the levels of learning objectives. So now this Bloom's taxonomy comes into picture. So what we said, we have a vision. As institute, we have a vision, and each and every department is contributing to the vision of the institution, and each and every department should have their own mission for the department as a whole. Then within that department, they may run few courses. They may have a single course, or they may have a few courses, and each and every course is expected to have its own requirements. So based on which the program educational objectives will be written. Again, the n number of courses, n number of degrees run by that particular department should consider the department's vision to write the program educational objectives. Say for example, BE Computer Science and Engineering, BE Artificial Intelligence and Data Science. There are two courses under Computer Science and Engineering department. Means the Computer Science and Engineering department may have a single vision, whereas these two courses should have two different program educational objectives considering the skill set of the two different courses, but the two different courses program educational objective must consider the department's vision. So each and every component, when we talk about outcome-based education, it should be associated with one another. So within the department, we may have a common vision, and each and every course will be each and every course will be having its own objective, but it should be based on the department's vision, right? So here we focus more on learning. We say learning objectives, learning outcomes. So there should be some hierarchy, or there should be some tool for knowing the process in learning, and knowing the process in pedagogy, knowing the process in assessing. So that's what we have this Bloom's taxonomy. So it is a hierarchical model, and it categorizes the learning objectives based on the various levels of complexity. So it starts from basic knowledge, and we can use this Bloom's taxonomy to assess the students from their basic knowledge to advanced level of their skill set. So it is a system of hierarchical models, and it has different levels. As we told, it's a hierarchical model. It has different levels, and it is arranged in a rank with some elements at the bottom and some elements at the top. So why we have this Bloom's taxonomy is that it is mainly used to categorize the learning objectives into varying levels of complexity. So it starts with lower order thinking skills and ends with higher order thinking skills. So this is the taxonomy introduced in the year 1956. So now this taxonomy has been revised in the year 2001, and according to this taxonomy, there are 3 levels of skills: knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. So what a Bloom's taxonomy actually says is that, so if we want to understand something, first of all we have to remember it, right? So if I remember it only, I can better understand it. If I want to apply some mechanism, some algorithm, some procedure, whatever it is, first of all I need to understand it. Then only it is easy for me to apply the concept for some for providing some solution. And before we want to analyze something, we must be able to apply it. So that there could be various techniques for providing a solution, and if we know the pros and cons of the various solutions, then only we'll be able to apply the best technique for arriving at the feasible solution. So before analysis, we must be able to apply it. So if I know to apply the various techniques, then only it's easy for me to better go with the best solution. Then before we go for evaluation, its impact must be there with analysis. So if you want to evaluate something, so I have to evaluate which is best. Then I must be able to analyze it first. Then only it's possible for me to evaluate it. And if I want to create something, if I want to design something, if I want to produce something, then first of all, I have to remember the concept. First of all, I have to understand the concept. I would have applied the different techniques. I would have analyzed the pros and cons of the different techniques, and I have evaluated the various methods to arrive at a common solution. Now I am ready to propose my own design, my own prototype, my own solution, and having analyzed and evaluated the various already available techniques. So these are all the different levels of Bloom's taxonomy. So we have to remember things, then we have to understand things, we should be able to apply things, then we have to analyze it, then evaluation, then we have, yes, that's it. So as we told, these are the 3 levels of domains, or 3 levels of thinking skills. So we have cognitive skills, psychomotor skills, and affective skills. So among these 3 domains, when we talk about education, so cognitive domain comes into picture. So cognitive domain mainly says about the knowing skill of a learner, and psychomotor says about the doing skill of a learner, and affective says about the feeling skill of a learner. So each and every domain has its own number of levels, ranging from simple to complex. So each and every domain is different, and each domain has its own skill set associated with it. As well, there are different levels of skill set. And cognitive domain, this is the first domain which is introduced in the year 1956. So it mainly focuses on thinking and intellectuality of a learner, and this is the first and most common hierarchy of learning objectives, especially when coming to education. So here in educational setting, this is mainly used, and this initial model, it mainly relies on nouns. So it relies on nouns to illustrate the different educational benchmarks. So if a learner has accomplished something, if you want to say that a learner has accomplished something, to declare that skill set, will be using the cognitive model, which uses nouns. And the slide gives about the various levels in the cognitive domain. So as we told, there are different levels for each and every domain, and here we have the skill set starts with knowledge and it ends with evaluation. So what knowledge is about in cognitive domain is that it's just recalling of information or knowledge. Just a student can recall something, then we can say that they have some knowledge on a concept. So this is considered as the foundation of the pyramid, and this is the prerequisite for all the future level. Say for example, if I want to apply something, then I should have the knowledge on it. I should better understand it. Then only I can go for the application. That's why we say knowledge. So now we start with knowledge and we end up with the evaluation level. Say for example, we can have a question like name 3 common types of grains. So there is no need for the student to understand it. Simply if they could recollect the name of the grains, then they can just write the names of the grains. Through that, we will come to know the student has knowledge in recollecting the names of the grains. Then comes a comprehension, and this says that making sense out of information. So the student could able to understand something. So through this, we can say that a student could able to understand something. Say for example, there is a question, say summarize the defining characteristics of rice, wheat and millet. If there comes a question, if a student is able to answer for it, then we can say that that student has understood the differences between the 3 specified grains. So they have to first understand these 3 are grains, and they have to understand the characteristics. If they remember these 3 are grains, and if they remember the characteristics with understanding, then they will be able to respond for it. Then comes application, and here they have some knowledge and they have understood the factual information about that knowledge, and they will be using that knowledge in a new but similar form. So they will be just using that knowledge to reproduce something. For example, does eating millets help improve longevity? Then if the student knows that it is a edible item and it has some characteristic in it, what are all the characteristics associated with millet, then only it's possible for him or her to answer this question. So through that, we'll come to know the student is able to apply the knowledge he or she has gained from that particular topic. Then comes analysis. So analysis, taking knowledge apart and exploring relationships. So they would have understood about rice, wheat and millet, and each and every grain has its own pros and cons. So they have understood and they know the pros and cons of the 3 grains, and they know how to apply it as well. So now they are ready to compare and contrast the different ways of cooking the grains and compare the health benefits. So if we say, if the student has to answer, compare and contrast the different ways of cooking grains and compare health benefits, it is easy for them if they better understand what could be the possibility of having health benefits with those grains, then only it's easy for them to answer for this question. So this is what analysis says about. Then comes synthesis, and synthesis using information to create something new. So here the main difference between application and synthesis, that application says that using knowledge in new but in similar form. The same form will be using it, whereas in synthesis, so we'll try to apply the knowledge we have gained and we'll try to create a new thing. Say for example, convert an unhealthy recipe for rice into healthy recipe by replacing certain ingredients. So there is a recipe with rice, and only if the student knows, only if the learner knows what could be the possible replacing ingredient for that recipe, as well they have to understand the possible health benefits of the selected ingredients. Then only they can justify their answer. So this is what synthesis tell about. Then comes evaluation. So critically examining relevant and available information to make judgments. So we have to justify based on the facts we have, based on the knowledge we have gained, based on the different applications we have accomplished or we have used for arriving at a different solution. So for example, this could be considered as an example for this skill set. Which kinds of grains are best for making a healthy meal and why? So they should first of all have the knowledge on grains, and they should understand which are all healthy grains and which are all can be used for cooking healthy meal, and they should possess all the above said skill set. Then only it's possible for them to provide a justification on which is the best grain for making a healthy meal. And then comes the affective domain. So this affective domain it concerned with the feeling and emotion. So it focuses on the ways in which we handle things related to activities related to emotions. So this is not actually widely used in educational sectors. These are all the different levels under affective domain. There are actually 5 domains. So basic awareness, which is receiving. So we can just listen and remember the names of our colleagues when we meet them on the first day of school. This could be considered as the basic awareness. Just we have received some information and we are able to reproduce that information. Then comes responding. So from the name itself, we can say that it says about the active participation of a learner. And how can we understand the active participation? When there comes a response from the learner, then we can understand that learner is responsive. So for example, we can say participation in class discussion. So from the name itself, it's affective domain. So it's more about emotions. It's more about the behavior we exhibit to understand our skill set. Next comes valuing. So here it is associated with a particular object or piece of information. Say for example, we have to understand the diversity exists among the heterogeneous people in the classroom, and we have to understand the people's backgrounds and beliefs, and we have to respect it. That's what value says about. Next comes organizing. So whatever job we are in, whatever a place we are in, there comes some priorities and there comes some ethical value system, and each and every ethical value system has its own emphasis on it, and it has to be better accepted. That is considered as organizing. And finally, characterizing. So it says about how we value a system and how we better behave among people in an environment. So it's kind of displaying a professional commitment to ethical standards in the workplace. And next comes the psychomotor domain. So again, it focuses on physical movement, coordination, and anything related to motor skills. And it could be, the skills could be from simple tasks such as washing a car to more complex tasks such as operating an intricate piece of technological equipment. So as I told, both affective as well as psychomotor domain is not much dealt in educational learning. So only the cognitive domain is dealt in educational learning, right? So these are all the different levels of psychomotor domain: perception, set, guided response, mechanism. So each and every level is related to the psychomotor domain. So when we say in all the 3 domains, the lower order is just having only the basic knowledge. So we talk just with the facts. So basic awareness. Say for example, we can estimate where a ball will land after it's thrown and guiding your movements to be in a position to catch it. So that's what is perception. Next comes set and guided response, mechanism, and complex overt response, adaptation, and origination. So this is not actually much needed to us. So let me skip this. And next comes the revised taxonomy, which is being used these days in educational institutions. So it emphasizes a more dynamic approach to education. So to reflect this active model of learning, the revised version utilizes verbs to describe the active process of learning. Whereas in the older version, we told that nouns have been used, whereas these days we use verbs to describe the active process of learning. So in newer version, so knowledge is associated with remembrance, comprehension is associated with understanding, application with applying, analysis with analyzing, synthesis with evaluating, and evaluation with creation. So this is the new level of Bloom's taxonomy, a new hierarchy of Bloom's taxonomy we have. And how Bloom's can aid in course design. So fine, we have a tool, and the tool says about the different hierarchical levels to assess a skill set of a learner. So it could be any kind of domain we follow, based on which, so whatever it is, so whether we are employees, employers, if we are a human being, then we are expected to possess something. As a learner, we expected to possess something. So what kind of skill set we need to possess according to our own employment, our own learning, based on which only we'll be choosing the domain. So here, when we talk about the educational institutions, we mainly focus only with the cognitive domain. So how this Bloom's can aid in course design? Why we need this Bloom's taxonomy in course design? How it helps us? So the teachers across the nation have a tool to guide the development of assignments, assessments, and overall curriculum. So we start with the curriculum design. So to have the curriculum design, first of all, we have to understand what kind of students we have to produce. So if we understand the skill set to be possessed by the students, understanding the educational system of the organization, then it's possible for us to have the curriculum design. So to understand that requirement, we need the Bloom's taxonomy. Now we have designed the curriculum. Next, we need to decide on the pedagogies we need to follow to help the students to achieve that, to accomplish that curriculum. So for that, again, we need a Bloom's taxonomy to decide on the various pedagogical techniques to help the students to achieve it. Next, we need to understand whether the students have achieved it. That's what we said initially: what, how, then again how we evaluate the students, and finally how to close the loop. So this is considered as an effective tool to guide the processes involved in teaching and learning, right from curriculum design till the assessment. So it helps the teachers to understand the learning objectives. Unit level, it could be on unit level, it could be on course level, it could be on program level, it could be on graduation level, it could be on after graduation as well. That's why we have individual components starting from course outcome till the program educational objective. And the taxonomy explains that, so before we can understand a concept, we have to first remember it. To apply a concept, you need to first understand it. To evaluate a process, we have to first analyze it. We need to understand the pros and cons of the process. And to create a new process, first you would have completed a thorough evaluation on the already available processes. So we teach a concept, the student should remember that concept, then the student should understand that concept, then they will be able to apply that concept to provide a solution. Then they'll be for a problem there could be various solutions. So they could have the concepts for providing solutions at using different processes. So they should be able to analyze the different processes to arrive at a common solution. And each process may have its own pros and cons, and they need to be able to justify the better solution for a problem. And once after understanding all the available processes or techniques, they should be able to create something new. So if they have understood all the available things, then they will be able to create their own new concept. So this is what it says with the 6 different levels of the revised Bloom's taxonomy. So the revised Bloom's taxonomy not only helps the teachers to understand the process of learning, also it provides guidance on how to create a effective learning objective. So again, learning objective, the syllabus, the hours we adapt for completing the syllabus, and the learning objective and the learning assessment, everything is associated with one another. So better we have to understand on completion of a course what could be the possible outcomes we expect the student should possess. Then based on which we'll be framing the learning objective. Then we'll be having a syllabus run across different units, and we have to provide hours for completing the topics of that syllabus. So considering the importance of the learning outcomes, we'll be providing the hours for the individual topics, considering the significance of the topic. Then once after the completion, we need to understand whether they have achieved it. For that, we'll be following the assessment method. So everything is interrelated. We cannot just like that write objective, we cannot just like that randomly assign hours for it, and just like that we cannot have the assessment method that will not even assess every single outcome of the associated course outcomes. So each and everything should be associated with one another. And this table gives us the different Bloom's level key verbs and example learning objective. And say for example, if we take evaluate, and these are the keywords we can use for assessing the skill set of a student at evaluate level. We can have choose, support, relate, and what could be the possible learning objective we can frame is that by the end of this lesson, the learner, the student will be able to determine whether using conservation of energy would be more appropriate for solving a dynamic problem. So to answer this question, say for example, we want to have, if you want to say the student is possessing this learning outcome, then we'll be framing a question which says about the using of conservation of energy and conservation of momentum for solving a dynamics problem. So if the student understands how to use this concept, if they remember the concept, if they understand and they have applied to solve a related problem to this, and they could analyze the various possible methods to solve the dynamics problem, then only it's easy for them to come with a evaluation on the same thing. So the lower order thinking skills are obviously implicit with the higher order thinking skills. So if we say a student is possessing analysis skill, then obviously implicitly they possess remember, understand and applying skill for a particular learning outcome. Say for example, when we take this understand Bloom's level, and these could be the possible keywords: describe, explain, restate, give, and by the end of this lesson, the student will be able to describe Newton's 3 laws of motion in his own words. So simply they can describe the something is already there, and they have to understand it, and they will be reproducing it on their own understanding. That's why we have the term in his or her own words. It's not that they have to simply reproduce what they have learned. So they have to write on the law. They have to reproduce the Newton's 3 law. It doesn't mean it has to actually follow the same phrase from the textbook. They can have their own words. So if they understand the concept, if they understand the law, then it's possible for them to reproduce it. But to apply some procedure, to apply some technique, they have to remember, understand, then only they can go for application. So, and so as teachers, as academicians, it's essential for us to go through these two things. So this is actually based on the examination reform policy which was proposed by ACTE, and based on which there are some model question papers available, how to have, what are all the different parameters available in the outcome-based education based on the examination reform policy, why we need that, how to write CO, how to write PO, then how to associate it with PEO, how to frame the syllabus, how to associate the syllabus with the CO, PO. Everything is available with these two links, and I have taken some extracts from the above publications. So the rest of the slides will be some extracts taken from those two links. So as we told, these are all the different levels available with the revised Bloom's taxonomy. So it starts with level 1 remembering and ends with the level 6 creating. So if a student or a learner is able to recall something from the previously completed course, then that says about the remembering skill of the student. And if they are able to explain some idea, some concept, some fact, then it says about their understanding skill. And they can apply the same situation in another, the same information in another familiar situation, then that will say about the applying skill of the student. Then analysis, so they may better break the problem into different distinguished parts, and they can try to understand the relationship between the different processes or procedures to come up with a solution. Then that says about analysis. And then finally justification on a course of action or decision, that says about the evaluation skill. And generating new ideas. So they have already possessed the skill till evaluation, and with the available skill set, they are now ready to produce their own algorithms, techniques, products, whatever it is. They are now ready for producing their own new things. So this about the 6 levels we have already seen. That's what is there with the education policy proposed by ACTE, and this cognitive domain talks about thinking, knowledge, and application of knowledge. So when we say creation and evaluation, it says about thinking and knowledge. And when we say about analysis and application, it says about, remembering and understanding, it says about thinking. Applying and analysis, it says about knowledge and application of the knowledge. And finally, we have the evaluation and creation. And this is what we have already seen previously. So how to have the action verbs for assessment. So when we say pedagogy, teaching, learning as well assessment comes into picture. So these are all the action verbs we have to follow in assessment. So we have to follow the action verbs when we construct the assessment question. And the action verbs will tell about the complexity of the question. And this action verbs help us not only to describe and classify the knowledge, as well how the students answer for the question, based on which we'll understand the skill set of the student. So frame the examination and assignment question that are appropriate to the level. So I can say a student possesses remembrance skill. Then the question will say, if the student answered for it, then I can understand have only the remembrance skill. Say for example, if I say design something, then it will say about the evaluation level of the student. Implicitly, the student has all the above said levels. So based on the question also, it is possible for us at what level we are trying to assess the student. And this already we have seen. And some of the verbs used are in multiple levels. So that's why we have different same verbs at different levels is that. So it is the skill we need the students to demonstrate, and if they are able to demonstrate that skill for a particular question at particular level, then it means that the student possesses that skill at that level. That's why we have the same set of verbs at different taxonomy levels. And next comes the assessment planning. So now we have completed curriculum. We have identified the pedagogies to deliver the curriculum. So now we are done with our part as teachers, and now we have to, again, still our part is there. We have to assess the students. So the students' participation comes into picture, and the students, how they possess the skills, they have to exhibit the skills. So how we can assess the learning levels. So these are all the learning levels, and as we have mentioned, the lower level skills, remembering, understanding, applying, some sort of analysis skills, even we can have it through fixed hour examinations. So it is possible for us to assess these three levels for sure, and some part of analysis level is possible for us through the continuous internal evaluation and semester examinations. We can easily evaluate it. Whereas when we talk about the higher level of analysis, evaluation and creation, it is not possible for us to have assess it through a fixed hour examination. So it is possible for us to assess it through post projects, mini project, mind project, whatever it is, and we cannot have a duration for it. We cannot say within 3 hours how the student is doing a lab exam. Within that, I cannot assess the capability of the student in that particular lab course. So simply 3 hours of examination or X hour of examination is not sufficient for saying a student is possessing the skill set and analysis, evaluation and creation level. When we talk about UG level, it's always possible for us to assess only the 3 levels of Bloom's taxonomy: remembrance, understanding and application. And again, how we have mapped the program outcome with the competency and the indicators, like how can we have the verbs, it is performance to assess the competency of the student. As we told, each and everything is interrelated, right? So I have just taken an example, and I have tried to give the association between various things, but we are running out of time, I guess. Ma'am? So these are all some questions related to the different taxonomy levels. So for example, the lowest level is remembrance, right? So these could be the possible questions which will say the student has some capability at remembrance level. So state Ohm's law. So if they could recollect it, then simply they will write it. List the physical chemical properties of silicon. Then list the components of AD converter. Define the simply if they could able to recollect something and they could write it, then we can say the student's level is fine at remembrance. Then understanding. So understanding, what skill will be expecting under understanding level is that they have grasped some knowledge and they are able to understand that fact, and they will able to translate that knowledge into a new context. Say for example, this could be considered as example for assessing the knowledge understanding level of the student. So explain the importance of sustainability in engineering design. So they would have known about sustainability, they would have known the definition of sustainability. So if they actually know the significance of sustainability only, they will be able to write the significance, right? So when we teach, we will be just teaching about what is sustainability, how it's used in engineering design. But if they understand how it's significant in engineering design, then only it's possible for them to answer for this question. So if they answer for this question, it means that the student possess understanding level in that particular learning outcome. Say for example, my outcome would be student will be able to understand engineering design. Student will be able to understand the significance of sustainability in engineering design. So answering this, it's possible, it's feasible for the student to show that he or she has possessed some understanding in that particular level for that learning outcome. So learning outcome with the question we are mapping. At the same time, the action verb says at which level the student possesses that learning outcome. So how many values the variable num must be used to completely test all branches of the following code fragment. So students would have known about variables, students would have known about loops and all, but if they know how to use it within a code, then only it's easy for them to answer this question. Again, it will also help us in understanding or assessing the understanding level of the student. Then comes apply. So when we say apply, obviously they should have understanding as well, remembrance as well understanding. This could be a sample question that will say about the application knowledge level of a student. So model or realize the behaviors using diodes with minimum number of digital inputs. So we may have a learning outcome saying a student will be able to use diodes for digital design. We may have learning outcome like that, and if a student answers for this question, it says that learning outcome is mapped with application level of Bloom's taxonomy with that particular student. So the skill the student can demonstrate at this level could be using the already available methods and solving problems using the already available techniques and using the skills they have possessed by understanding a particular concept. So here they just apply what they have studied. They are not creating anything new. They are just applying what they have studied. And analyze. So this will help us to understand how a student could differentiate the different parts of a complex problem and how to break down a complex problem into different parts. So this is an example question. So there could be a class of 10 students and 5 males and 5 females, and the students are intended to design a model and considering the already available model. So they should be able to understand the already available model. So then only it's possible for them to understand how to produce a new model considering the pros and cons of the already available model. Then next, evaluation and creation, it's not possible for us to assess it in time limited examinations. That's what I have already told. So it's possible for us to assess only the lower order skills with the time limited examinations, and for evaluate, create, we have to use assessment methods like projects, open-ended problem solving exercises to understand the students' skills at those levels. And this could be the sample problem statement or a case study to understand the student capability at create level. Say, for example, design a system to assist the driver by using cameras to detect markers and pedestrians while the vehicle is in motion. So, first of all, they have to remember the concept of cameras. They should remember the concept of vehicles in motion, and they have to understand the vehicular theory. They have to apply the already available techniques to design a system, and they have to analyze what are all the pros and cons of the available system. And after having that analysis, now they are able to design a new system which will overcome the cons of the already available system. So this is how we will be able to understand how a student is at create level and evaluate level. And again, we have one more tool which is similar to Bloom's taxonomy. So this Miller's pyramid, this is also considered as an important tool for evaluating the learning outcomes. So here it says knows, and we know knows how, and shows how, and does. So this is what it's about. So knows, first of all, we need to collect the facts, and we have to interpret the facts, and we will be able to apply the facts. So both the things combinedly known as cognitive. And then we have behavior, demonstration of learning, and then performance integrated into practice. So that will say about behavioral skills. So this is actually a upper model which says about the different levels of competence. And now I have some sample questions to say about the different levels. Say, for example, Mrs. Anita wants her students to compare and contrast two native Rajasthani folk tales and the cultures each represent. So at which level of thought is Mrs. Anita asking her students to work according to Bloom's taxonomy? So I guess as a teacher, a person wants to know how the students will be able to compare and contrast two native Rajasthani folk tales and the cultures each tale represent. So based on the answers the students are giving, it is possible for the teacher to understand whether they can remember the concepts, whether they can remember the folk tales and cultures of the associated folk tale, and whether they have understood the culture of that folk tale, and they have to give the comparison on both the tales. So if they could be able to analyze things, then only it's possible for them to give the answer for it. So through the answer of this question, the teacher will be able to understand the students possess knowledge at remembrance, understanding, and analyzing. So there could be a learning outcome. Students will be able to understand the different cultures and folk tales of Rajasthan. That could be a learning outcome. And we can map that learning outcome with the Bloom's taxonomy 3. Because when we say analysis is possible, implicitly there is remembrance and understanding. And there are few more questions also. Once we are running out of time, I hope let's stop here. Thank you for the opportunity once again. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Anu ma'am. On behalf of everyone here today, I thank Ms. Anuratha for taking the time to speak to us on this topic, Bloom's taxonomy. As we are running out of time, we cannot accommodate more presentation, but still the entire presentation was very informative. Your depth of understanding of Bloom's taxonomy and your ability to present the subject in such an interesting way produced one of the most memorable evenings. I'm truly humbled by your insightful contributions. Thank you so much, ma'am, for teaming up with us. With this thank you note, we end this session for today. Feedback link has been posted and it will be available for next 20 minutes. Kindly submit it. Let's meet tomorrow at 2:30 p.m. with yet another important topic, ICT-enabled tools and innovative techniques for teaching and learning. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Anu ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.